Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa. Amma ba'du fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. والذين إذا فعلوا فاحشة أو ظلموا أنفسهم ذكروا الله فاستغفروا لذنوبهم ومن يغفر الذنوب إلا الله ولم يصروا على ما فعلوا وهم يعلمون. وقال تعالى: قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها. وعن أبي مسعود رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم: إن مما أدرك الناس من كلام النبوة الأولى إذا لم تستحي فافعل ما شئت. آمنت بالله صدق الله مولانا العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Brothers and sisters in Islam, last week we talked about Iman and the branches of faith. Among those, وَالْحَيَاءُ شُعْبَةٌ مِّنَ الْإِيمَانِ. One of the branches of faith that we touched upon in the narration is that to have a sense of decency and a sense of shame, a sense of modesty is part of faith. In our times that we are living, I think it's from ourselves and the shamelessness all around us today. You know, our youth, and this is not only for the youth, but they are nearly graduating and they will end their school year and then the summer will come. With this summer, we know all types of fahisha. As much as they were previously, come with more strength and more invitation than ever. And if you and me as a community and personally speaking as parents, as fathers, as mothers, don't take this time to instill in our children and make them well grounded in the deen and faith, then it doesn't take a lot of time for them to lose their faith. If it has not already started to deteriorate day by day, as we see in this environment, it's very easy. You know, there was a time where hundreds of years ago, even in this country, there was a sense of decency, a sense of morality, a sense of shame in our societies. That if you were to, for example, go into a neighborhood and you started to do something which was an act of indecency, for example, then the neighbor or someone else in that neighborhood would have the decency to put you in place, or to give you some advice, or to at least at minimum go to the parent and talk to them that I saw your mother, your son, your daughter with so and so. And so there was a a type of aspect that that social network that you were in would not allow any type of indecency to come into your neighborhood, to come into your family, to come into your society. There are checks and balances all over the place. And there was a sense that, if something is happening wrong and I don't correct it, then that wrong will start to spread and it will come and even affect my own children or my family, etc. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reminds us in the Quran, and this verse basically it talks about, after mentioning that we should vie with one another to become among those people who have the characteristics of the people of paradise, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about those people who fulfill the rights of others, who spend in adversity, in diversity, in happiness, in bad times, etc. And they control their anger and they forgive people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who perfect and do goodness. And then He says, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً. For those people, and this is for everyone, who they do some type of shameful act, an act of indecency, something immoral, something evil, a vice, أَوْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ, or they wrong themselves. So what do? The Quran, it says, ذَكَرُوا اللَّهِ. That this is, you can also kind of think of this in a way, not just for Muslims and believers. Like I mentioned, this was even in people who had a sense of decency. Dhakarullah. They would remember God. They would remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They would have a sense of shame inside of them. And they would right away feel that they have done something wrong. And so that sense, that type of intuition, let's put it, even a natural disposition, because as you know, even non-Muslims, they are created upon the fitrah. And that fitrah is what really is full of the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every heart, every child that comes into this world has that fitrah. It's different when the environment then darkens that fitrah, when the environment clouds that fitrah, when it becomes covered with all types of shameful things, with all types of bad things that come around it, and then they are not able to understand any longer. And today maybe you can take away from this talk of modesty the sense of, the aspect of desensitization, which is coming into us, even into Muslims today. The lack of sensitivity, the lack of doing the right thing, the lack of acting morally and acting in a way that if you see something shameful, if you see something wrong, to do nahi anil munkar, to stop that wrong, or to at least have the decency to tell someone else who has the power to stop it, and feel that, and don't let it spread. So this was something that existed before. Maybe a couple of decades before we had these cell phones and all of these devices, there was a sense of decency in schools, even in public schools, right? Even some of the elementary schools, they were shameful to use wrong words and this and that. Now, in our times, We even see the smallest of children using profanity, using wrong words in the schools today. Alayatu billah. So you can see the degeneration of the Muslim ummah as well as the society all around us. And what is happening to the public? And so the verse, going back to the verse, it tells us that when this evil happens, when these vices take place, dhakarullah, the believers, the mu'mineen, they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not thumma dhakarullah, not after a long time, but this is that very fitrah. You know, when you commit an evil, you know you did wrong. And so right away, ala al-fawr, something immediately kicks in that I did the wrong thing. I made a mistake. As it comes, it feels like a whole mountain is about to fall upon you until you rid yourself and make tawbah to Allah, make istighfar, and do a good deed to replace and wipe out that sin. That's how much pressure comes upon that person. فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا لِذُنُوبِهِمْ. And so they seek and they start praying for forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is it enough to simply pray for forgiveness, which may come to the mind of you? Well, you have to remember, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam told us that there are certain ingredients that are needed for you to become competent or once more valued in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he wants us to fulfill a certain criteria that if you do something wrong, as the Quran says here, that وَمَنْ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. First of all, you know that there's no one who can remove the sins except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That a dhanb, which is a smaller sin. You know, something that usually we don't do, we just slip into those things. We did them unintentionally. And so, when that happens, we should have that sensitivity inside of us, that sense of shame, that sense of modesty inside of us, that right away, as we will inshallah define what is modesty actually, because this is also important. Definitions matter, by the way. Because in our society, sometimes we tend to just think that modesty is something that is how I grew up in my culture. And that's what modesty means. That's a possibility. It may be true, but when we measure it upon the standard of the Quran and the Sunnah, that's more important for us to look at and ponder over. Is this in coordinates, in accord with what I was taught as a child, how I was raised up, how my culture was? If it was, alhamdulillah, fabiha wa ni'mat. If it's not, then I need to correct myself and bring myself into line with the Quran and the Sunnah. So, وَلَمْ يُصِرُّوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلُوا. The Quran has hinted towards the qubuliyah, the acceptance of tawbah. You know, sometimes when we commit a sin, we do it again, then we make tawbah again, we do it again, then we make tawbah again, over and over again. To a point where sometimes you start saying to yourself, I do this so much, I might as well forget it. This is a sign that you are not properly apologizing or asking for forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are not sorry, in other words. Because you are persistent and keep on doing that thing over and over and over again. It means you need to check yourself, you need to check your intentions. And it's not as simple as that. Sometimes a person can have a good intention, but the entire scenario that they put themselves in is totally oblivious to that. For example, a person knows that if I go into my room and I shut the door, or my child goes into their room and I give them a computer, they have access to the internet, and they shut their door, what am I doing? I'm opening up the doors of evil to them and giving them access to everything. And you are thinking, my son and my daughter are such angels. They come to the masjid with me. They come and pray with me. They give salam to my, and this and that. You are thinking this. And your son and daughter, what are they doing behind the doors? Do you have any idea of that? Many of us are thinking positively, this and that. But again, we are setting ourselves up for trouble. You are setting yourselves up definitely for trouble. Yani, if you think about yourself, that if there's a certain place that you go to and you keep on committing that sin, what's the best thing to do? You know what it is. Don't go there. Stay away from that place. And yet, you think that our children or someone else or your own self can go back to that place and stay away from that? We're fooling ourselves. And so, وَلَمْ يُصِرُّوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلُوا is making a gesture towards that. Allah is hinting towards what you need to do is to stay away from those things. And if you continue to do so, that means you are not sincere in your tawbah. You are not being sincere to your own self. And you're just causing trouble, really, for your own self, and for your children, for your families, and for others. And so, some of these narrations, before I go into that, I just go over, I think it's important to define. I said the definition of modesty. So let's check up on what our aslaf, how they define modesty. And so to see if we're in touch, in tune with that in our life. Have we really practiced that? And the reason I'm mentioning this is, again, to go back to what we need to do with ourselves during this summer, during these days of fitna that are coming up to us. And during the days when your children will be out of school, where do you need to send them? If you need to send them to that Islamic summer camp or to wherever you need to, you find a good environment for them where they can become well-grounded in their aqidah, in their iman, in their faith, and where they can learn seerah, the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where they can become in tune with modesty, so that they can act decently and they know how to stay away from the fitan, the fire, and the poisonous environment that is going to be inviting them continuously, the poisonous environment. It's not going to let up. It's just going to get worse and worse. As the heat comes, the clothes come off. Right? You know this country. That's how it's like. And you know how these environments will be. So, Imam Junaid, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions in regards to modesty, هو خلق يبعث على ترك القبيح ويمنع من التقصير في حق ذوي الحق. So he says that this modesty, it's beautiful that he puts it in this way. It's an attitude, or it's like a characteristic, a khuluq, that encourages people to abandon what is wrong. It's that da'iyah inside of you, that drive inside of you, that motivation, that aspiration that comes inside of that intuition, that natural disposition, let's put it, that fitrah, that is doing what? It's stopping you from acting upon evil. And to abandon that which is ugly and which is wrong and which is a vice, and prevents one from falling short of the right of those people who have rights. And in another place he says الحياء رؤية الآلاء ورؤية التقصير فيتولد بينهما حالة تسمى الحياء. In another way, he says that a person envisions the blessings of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. At the same time, envision what? Shortcomings and taqseer, and something that is a fault. And so the state that you are in between both of these aspects, that is called haya. You can understand from an example. Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah, a great tabi'i, who saw over many sahaba, 120 sahaba, it comes in some of the narrations. He was once noticing that there was a youngster, a youth in their society who was kind of broken, kind of sad. And he was unique in this aspect that as the other youth would talk a lot, he was very sakit, very quiet, and would stay in this type of reflective mode, if you can think about that. It seemed like he was thinking something was bothering him, constantly bothering him. So one day, Hasan al-Basri noticed him. He called him over. He said, "Hey chap, what's up? What's up with you? Why are you acting like this? When all the rest of the youth, I've noticed you are very different." And so he said that, I start to think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with so many ni'mas. Allah, so many gifts, so many favors Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us. But on the other hand, then I look at my amal, my practice. What am I doing? In other words, what he was saying, that these blessings, when I envision them, and then I look at my own amal on the other side, there's not a balance. In other words, I am not fulfilling the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not fulfilling the rights, this is what a person can start thinking. I'm not fulfilling the rights of people. I'm not thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for these ni'mas wa ghayra dhalik. So this condition, if you're constant in that condition and thinking all the time like this, will you be enticed to do sin? Will you go towards that immodesty? Or will that stop you? That sense of shame, that sense of modesty will prevent you from doing anything wrong. When Hasan al-Basri heard this from this young person, and this means that, if we really try, even youth, sometimes they set example for elderly people. And so when he did this, he said, "Hey, you've gone ahead of Hasan al-Basri." From their manners, from the way they acted and conducted themselves. It wasn't just about, the hadith, but they would look at also the fi'l, the actions of them, the af'al of them, and see if they were good leaders. We have many people who talk, but do they live up to that? So he was with these people, and this person, Abdullah ibn Maslam, was on the corner. He was a drunkard. He was intoxicated, heavy drinker. And so he was a young man, sitting down at the corner, drinking, and he was intoxicated. And this was his normal routine. And he was known by the people to be like this. He saw this crowd of people coming, and he looked up and was attracted towards it. He says, "What's going on? Let me see what that commotion is." So he went over there, and he made his way through to the Imam Sha'bi, rahimahullah. He said, "Who are you?" Just comes up to him, and just, out of nowhere. He's in a state of intoxication as well. He can't think properly. But he goes up to him and he says, "Who are you?" Like this. Now imagine, this type of situation. A person who's known for his decency, he's known for his morality, he's known he's a great scholar, and then someone comes up like this. So you could just imagine, what people are thinking. Then they're kind of pushing him away. Hey, don't you know who that is? That's Imam Sha'bi. He's a muhaddis. He's our sheikh. He's our teacher. He's giving us dars of hadith, etc. Right? And so Imam Sha'bi is a person who is, again, entrenched, or he's inculcated ilmun nubuwwah, right? And he's warith amongst the warathatul anbiya, those who inherit the knowledge of the anbiya alayhi salatu wassalam. And so the hadith so he said to him, who are you? He said, I'm, so and so. I give khidmah. And he says, so tell me a hadith. Like this. Tell me a hadith. So narrate something to me. So imagine, look at this, it's not even the etiquettes to, stand up and just out of like this to, usually they sit down in a majlis, you have the hadith given, the dars is given in a way. It's a protocol beautifully like this. But Imam Shafi did not flinch, he did not become upset, did not become angered, etc. And rather, the hadith that I just recited to you, Inna mimma adraka an-nasu min kalam an-nubuwwati al-ula. Imam Bukhari in his Adab al-Mufrad, and also Imam Abu Dawud in his Sunan has narrated this hadith, that it has been heard by the people from the earlier prophets. So this hadith is basically something that has never been abrogated. It's been coming on for generations from all of the Anbiya alayhimu salatu wassalam. That the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam also, he had quoted as saying, إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحْيِ فَفَعَلْ مَا شِئْتَ. In other nations, فَاصْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. That when you have no shame, then do as you please. These were the words that he said to this young man, Abdullah ibn Maslama al-Ka'nabi, rahimahullah ta'ala. It was just these words, this simple hadith from the Prophet coming out from the heart and from the lips of this muhaddith, that it came and went into the heart of this youth who was drunk. And because of that, what happened? His entire life changed. This one moment, it was that one moment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those words affected him, and he became upon to the guidance. And this Imam, at that moment, or this person, he went and he did tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He got rid of the bottles of wine that he had. And he went to Medina to sit with Al-Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, became a student of knowledge, became a great muhaddis, and became the teachers of the Siha Sitta, those great authentic muhaddithin of the books that we benefit from today. And we narrate and we take the names up. So from this, brothers and sisters in Islam, we understand that our youth and our sons, all of us are muhtaj of learning faith. One of those branches of faith is modesty, al-haya. This every single day that we are seeing in our societies is getting less and less and less. And so for us, what do we have to do in order to increase that? Is to make fikr, is to make sure that we take all of those means possible to put our children and ourselves in the environment where modesty will grow, where modesty will flourish, where decency and morality will be the norm. And with this, we hope and pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us tawfiq. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Subhanallah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله هيا على الصلاة هيا على الفلاح هيا على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن كثيرا كثيرا. أما بعد، يا أيها الناس اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وقال تعالى: والذين إذا فعلوا فاحشة أو ظلموا أنفسهم ذكروا الله فاستغفروا لذنوبهم ومن يغفر الذنوب إلا الله ولم يصروا على ما فعلوا وهم يعلمون. وعن أبي مسعود رضي الله عنه قال: قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: إن مما أدرك الناس من كلام النبوة الأولى: إذا لم تستحي فافعل ما شئت. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال: قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: الإيمان 70 أو 60 شعبة، فأفضلها قول لا إله إلا الله، وأدناها إماتة الأذى عن الطريق، والحياء شعبة من الإيمان. بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم، ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم. أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى، وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى. أما بعد، فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك، وصل على جميع المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات، إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. ورضى اللهم عن ساداتنا أبي بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي، وعن سائر الصحابة والتابعين وتابعيهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه. اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، واخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
استووا واستقيموا واعتدلوا. Straighten lines, fill in the gaps. Please silence your cell phones. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. سمع الله لمن حمده. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Just one very quick announcement, inshallah. We will continue with our Friday night halaqah today after Maghrib. The English Quran Tafsir for adults will be downstairs by Mulana Javid. The Brothers English lecture for teenagers and young adults will be by Mulana Adil in the front of the Musalla. The Sisters English lecture for teenagers and young adults will be by Sister Asma in the back classroom upstairs. And the boys and girls story time session will be by Sister Maryam, inshallah, in the back of the Musalla. Jazakumullah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum.